time to take control. It's in my bones, can't shake it. It's in my soul, can't fake it. This is my home, I built it. I'm in control.
What's up, my people? Welcome back to Asbury Circle. My name is Bobby G. It's my brother Ricky D. You know the circle captain here. Now listen, we just want to have a little round table here, and the purpose of the round table is kind of sum up what we've been talking about. The past 3 episodes been about my brother's early life, some of his early experience that kind of melded him to who he is today. So we're gonna get down to the round table, sort of a no holds bar interview with my brother here. And I want to sort of start off, man, by asking you something that might be a little bit, a little touchy, man. I want to ask you what's your earliest recollection of some of the manifestations that happen within yourself, within your being, of the chaos sort of that surrounded your early days. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so I had no clue it was any kind of manifestation until later, looking back, you learn. So some things you can only learn in retrospect, especially when it's little kid shit.
Right.
Everything seemed like it was hunky-dory until, I'm going to say between age 7 and 9. I might have had my last one around 10, and they dissipated. But I used to have these, what they call night terrors.
Really?
And they were really intense.
What was some of the, what would happen? Do you remember the first one you ever had?
No, because they started young, but I always remember it was a sleepwalk, and I'd wake up, and I would come downstairs, and I'd be shaking, just shaking and half asleep, shaking, and I would feel tiny, right? And I was basically fear incarnate.
Right.
And my brothers and sisters would try and soothe me. Usually my sisters, you know how my sisters are.
Right.
They would be freaked out by it, and if a cousin or one of my sister's friends were sleeping over,
right.
they were really freaked out.
Right,
So if anybody was there to witness one of these, they're playing late. Well, 9 o'clock is late to them. I've gone to bed at 7, and I come downstairs shaking like crazy and just in a constant state of fear. It was like a bad trip, you can say now, but that's what it would seem like. But I was fear incarnate, completely afraid, and nobody can break me out of this state, not even my mother, because sometimes I would be in this state. My brothers and sisters, maybe Stephanie might have got me out of it a couple times by it's okay, you know what I mean? And then I would go to bed. Possibly. I'd have to ask her.
Right.
But my mother couldn't snap me out of this. And the only one who could do it is my father. And that really kind of stems from that's where all the fear came from, was the fear of him. It's crazy when your caretakers, someone you love, also instills a tremendous amount of fear in you. So that's a mind fuck, The man who loves you also harms you. I heard Joseph Campbell talk. And not only was it his talk, it was The Power of Myth. It turned into a book. He speaks of the blade that deals the blow or something like that.
Right.
The blade that cuts the wound is the only thing that can heal that wound. It's like an old motif.
Right.
And that's why people go to their abusers or whatever you want to call it, and they seek acknowledgement if they're still alive, or if they feel it's something that they can do. They often want that person to acknowledge. And sometimes they do, and most of the time they don't, because they're dealing with fucked up people. Also, and that was just me. I don't think the other kids had night terrors where they were really freaked out in this half sleeping, half awake state.
Probably 1 in 10, I think. Is the
Right. But they were bad for me, and it was a very terrible feeling to be in it. I remember them.
Right.
And then also another sign was, anybody who knows his family knows that we all had our very pronounced self-soothing. Like, I used to rock my head. My brother used to rock my head, rock his head. This is like excessive self-soothing. This isn't your normal child teddy bear sucking your thumb too late. This is, rocking your head back and forth. This is rocking back and forth, just getting out this nervous energy, and that's something I've only witnessed in footage of orphanages when kids weren't being held.
Like children of Willowbrook. So that brings me to...
Well, that's another one.
That brings me to my next question. Do you have a first memory of your father? Or?
My earliest memory is really hearing the piano vibrate the house. That was a constant, and that was in both homes, on West Bangs and on Robin Road. The house was always rumbling with the sound of him playing the piano, so it was always, vibrating through the house. So it was more of a sound, and then my earliest memories of him is just being about him. That's kind of what it was.
So, you're my boy, man. I know your life pretty well. I know you were in rehab when you were, 12 years old, something like that. Why don't you, break down what that was all about, my man?
I went to 7th grade, which is junior high in Neptune. Remember, Ridge Avenue was a middle school, so I was always a fuck up in school. But once there was a fire under my ass, and that seems to be the story of my life. You light a fire under my ass, and then I perform well. So I went to 7th grade, what they called on probation. You're gonna go on, you'll go to junior high on probation, but if you fuck up once, you're going back to 6th grade. And for me, I just couldn't bear the fact of everybody else moving on and me going back to 6th grade. It just never sat with me.
Right.
And why? And it was almost my decision.
Right.
Because I go to 7th grade, and once you're switching classes and you're not sitting in the same room all day, forget it. Yeah. You're cutting class. We're going out to the graveyard and smoking weed. Right. So my guidance counselor is like, dude, look, you've been written up this many times, you're cutting class, you're going back to, and I was, you're going back to 6th grade, and I'm like, fuck. But they always have one thing before they do that, and they send you to the school psychologist. Yeah. Which is some dude, I don't even know if I want to say his name, because I heard later on he got in trouble. He got in trouble. But he was cool with me, and he asked me. He was being real cool. Do you want a cigarette and all that shit? And his thing is, how are we going to get you out of this? He said, have you used any drugs? And my thing is,
how old were you? This guy gave you
12.
When you were 12?
12, yes.
This is a school counselor, too.
Yeah. And most of the time, from what I remember, it's like, oh, if you're just going to see Mr. Silva, that's all right, because he's going to get you out of trouble. You know what I mean?
Give you a Newport, man.
I had no insights. Once again, it's a fish in water. And you're like, what water? What water are you talking about? Because when you're in it, you're in it. So I go see him. His bright idea was, look, we're going to say, you got a drug problem. And all I did was smoke a little weed with my buddies. You're going to have to go away. It was a 90-day inpatient program in Long Branch, Monmouth Chemical Dependency.
Right, I know what
I'm 12 years old.
That's crazy.
I'm fucking 12.
That's crazy.
I turned 13 in there, in rehab. So, but the plan was, and he did say, he said, you're going to go away, and when you come back, you'll still be in junior high, but you're going to be, what do they call you, the rug room, you're going to be, what's the term?
Like,
classified.
Yeah.
You're going to be classified all the way through school.
Yeah.
And he lets me make this decision. And the truth is, I should have been classified, but they never looked into where this shit is coming from.
Right.
And this is like a DIFUS issue, and it just never visited my house. So this is how we dealt with things. Why my mom would say, okay, my son's going to go away with all these other 15 to 19-year-old people who smoke crack and are just way in a different age group and far more developed. You know how it is when between 12 and 18, a lot of shit happens.
Sure.
So I go there and it's like going to criminal school, you know?
Right, you sharpen up with the best of the best.
And then when you come back, you got this reputation. Ricky's a drug addict.
All right.
You know what I mean? And nobody knows what this is really about. It's just really about me fucking up, trying not to go back to 6th grade, and, you know, having to wait many, many years to realize what was really going on. And it comes from the home.
So I know a lot of people go through these problems, you know what I mean, they carry them all through their life. Could you sort of maybe shed a light upon the silver lining, or your opinion, is there a silver lining, my man?
Well, I'll tell you what. At a certain point in my life, I thought there was no silver lining. I was just like, I'm fucked, right?
Right.
But from where I sit right now, even though there was a lot of pain to come, I think it forced me into some sort of maturity, even though it was too soon, and stunted me in a way, but I think it made me strong.
Sure.
Strong. It made me strong because most of the kids in my grade up until then had not, like, gone through that shit. So it toughens you up in a certain sense. At the same time, it armors you up where you're not as open to the world as you once were. And also, another silver lining would be when I did realize where all this shit comes from, call it what you want, pre-verbal trauma, complex trauma, right?
Right.
This is like, I'm like a fucking mushroom, bro. It's the substrate, you know, it's the shit that I'm growing out of. I have to use it as fertilizer. That's my fertilizer, man, is my bullshit. The bullshit I had to go through, and as long as it didn't really fucking snap me into insanity,
Right.
I'm all right. I'm at peace, man.
You got some tough bones, my brother.
I'll spend the rest of my life fixing it, but that's my job.
Hey, man.
And, you know, I'm still working it out. And it also led to me always, you know, riding a bike, putting on running shoes, always dealing with the physical aspect of the self. Because all that shit is stored in the body, man.
Absolutely.
The vagus nerve and all that shit. It made me learn. It made me want to learn about me. I might have read too much psychology and shit because you start getting into all these clinical terms and all that. It's good for me to know that in a certain sense. But this is the book I'm reading now. I'm still reading this book, and, you know, it turned me into a Jedi. In a certain sense.
And that's all you can ask.
That's all. Thank you, brother.
So there we go, people. Ricky, I want to thank you, brother.
You got it, my man.
Starting the Asbury Circle. I wish you the best of luck on this, man. Anything you need, man.
Oh, I'll be asking.
I'll see you guys later. Peace be with you.
Peace.